video fully finished and was doing the final watch to look for any errors, and I noted a major error in the video. The error left me with 3 possible options. Number 1, edit the entire error out of the video so that you would never know it happened. Option 2, note when the error occurs and put an explanation in as to what went wrong. Or option 3, leave it in and see if you notice. Ultimately, I decided to go with option 3. Leave the video intact. Let you find the error. Put in the comments below the timestamp and what the error is. Other people can learn from you to not replicate my mistake. Let's get to the video. Continuing with our theme of film photography, we will load this roll of Kodachrome 64 into the Olympus OM-1 camera. I'm James Fisher, and this is Vintage Illumination Photography. Well, first, let's load the film into the camera. We're going to pull up the take-up lever, which opens the camera. We'll open up the back, and then we're going to load the film. To load the film into the camera, lift the take-up lever, open the back, place the roll of film into the camera, lower this down so it locks in, pull our film out, engage it in the spool, start winding the film where it engages in the sprockets, right there. Close the back, and then we're going to press the shutter release and wind the film until we get to exposure number 1. And the counter now reads 1 on the camera.
Kodachrome's 3-color process was invented in the early 1930s by scientist Leopold Godowsky Jr. and Leopold Mans. Godowsky and Mans were accomplished classical musicians. You sure hit the right note this time, fellas. While all color films have dyes printed directly onto the film stock, Kodachrome's dye isn't added until the development process. The film is basically black and white, with expensive and unique processes that add the color dyes during processing. Kodachrome was known for its vivid but natural colors. It was fairly contrasty, and exposures needed to be very accurate. However, this lent the resulting slide a pleasing snap when projected. Kodachrome was much loved by travel and nature photographers. Kodachrome was discontinued in 2009. Dwayne's photo of Kansas, the last lab offering K14 processing, ceased developing the film in 2011. Since Kodachrome is at heart a black and white film, it can be processed in standard black and white chemicals and produce a monochrome negative. It should be noted that this type of processing is not recommended and will have inconsistent results. Our roll of Kodachrome was in a camera bag purchased at an estate sale. We have no idea how old the film is or how it was stored. Film has a shelf life, and the results are not guaranteed after its expiration date.
To try out the Kodachrome 64 in the Olympus OM-1, we made the decision to go downtown. Downtown is having a, what do they call it?
Winter Wonderland.
Winter Wonderland. And it's Sunday, so there's really nobody here at all. It's a small town, so the sidewalks all roll up on Sundays. But the Winter Wonderland, one of the things that they've done is they put out these foam snowmen in front of almost every business, and they're all dressed uniquely. I thought that would make an interesting subject to do some of the photographs with this Kodachrome 64 in the Olympus camera. Ready to go?
Let's go.
We're at the local restaurant, and they've got their snowman, snowwoman, dressed up as a chef for Chef Shells. One of the things about the Olympus camera, after I got it set up, is that it takes a battery to operate the light meter. The rest of the camera is fully manual. There's no automatic anything on it. The light meter is simply a dial, plus or minus, that just shows you if you're in exposure or not. Well, the battery that Olympus chose to use for these cameras is no longer manufactured. And someone said there's a type of hearing aid battery I could get and put in there. I've tried that. Didn't make the meter work. So again, we're working today with total Sunny 16. So at normal ISO or ASA, ISO of the Kodachrome 64 was 64. So that puts us at a 60th of a second at f16 in bright sunlight. So if we set that up, so 60 at f16, I figure we're about 4 f-stops off of that with the light we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4. That puts me at f4 at a 60th. But I want to shoot a little quicker, 125th of a second. F5.6. That's the ticket. The most difficult thing, ironically, for me to remember is to wind the film after I press the shutter. Look, a corset head. So, yes, thank you. I am having fun with this vlog. It's obviously winter in Michigan. We are frozen. So we've packed it up. I think I got 23 shots this time. And so we're going to develop the film. Now, we didn't talk very much about developing the film and what's going to happen. Kodachrome 64, that K14 process, is totally discontinued by Kodak and isn't available in any way, shape, or form. But what we're going to do is we're going to process this film in black and white developer. We're going to use D-76 developer and see what we get. Now, one of the little known things about Kodachrome 64 is it's actually a black and white film. The colored dyes were put in the film during the processing. They actually aren't in the film yet. The black and white film developer should work just fine to bring out the images. The most difficult thing we're going to have is that there's a black remjet backing on the back of the film that after processing, I'm going to have to work to scrub off and scrape off of that film. That's going to be the interesting part. Well, we're done doing our outdoor photography and we've totally used up this roll of film. Now I'm going to wind the film out of the camera. Just so you know, in a future vlog, I'm going to explain the Olympus OM camera quite a bit more, kind of go through some of the unique things about the OM model line and what Olympus did. Big fan of these 35mm cameras. Different 35mm cameras had different ways for you to release the mechanism so you could wind the film back into the canister. On the Olympus OM-1, it very simply was this little lever that says R. We just turn that to R. And we can bring out our wind lever and we can crank that film back into the canister. And if we listen carefully, we'll hear it when it comes loose. Right there. Now it spins very freely, so it's all set. We will open up the back of the camera by lifting the wind lever up, and our exposed Kodachrome 64 film is right there, totally wound back into the canister. Now I'm going to go process this film. I have another video, which I'll link right here, that explains processing black and white film. We're going to be doing the same process for this roll. The only thing that's different is it'll be 35mm as opposed to the 120 roll of film that we did before. that's our experiment of using Kodachrome 64 as a black and white emulsion film. As you can see, when we put the images of these negatives on the screen, I was incredibly disappointed with the quality of the image we ended up with. If I had to do this again, and I mean that would be if I had to do this again, I would probably rate the film, instead of at 64, probably a full 2 extra f-stops, maybe at around f16, and then still have done the full development. I used the D-76 developer, full strength. I was very concerned about the yellow dye layer in the film as it would wash out, so I did use it full strength as a 1-stop. I still did not get anywhere near the contrast that I had hoped, nor the image quality that I had hoped we would get. The real question is, would I ever do this experiment again? And the answer is no. It was fun. It was a fun experiment to see what we could get with a roll of film. Michelle and I had a great time going downtown and doing some photographs and just being silly. In our crazy times we have right now, go be crazy in a good way. Have some fun. Have a good time. It's worth it. It's worth it. Just go out there and have a good time. If you get images or not, as long as you have images in your mind and your heart, that's what really matters. I have another video that fully explains black and white processing with real black and white film, and I'll link that video right here for you to see. It's worth a watch. It's a lot of fun. I'm James Fisher. Thanks so much for joining me on this odyssey of experimenting with some outdated color transparency film developed as a black and white negative.